Whew. Oh man, I love swimming. Just the feel of the water on your skin, a beautiful day, and just alone in your thoughts. It's so refreshing. Competitive swimming, on the other hand, oh man, that takes a special kind of athlete. Someone that can put up with hours a day, weeks on end, months, years of your life, just you and your thoughts going up the pool, back the pool, up the pool, back the pool. Just that black line constantly. Very, very rare athletes are able to endure the mental rigors. In this podcast, I talked to four-time Olympic gold medalist and Australian champion in Libby Trickett. Libby is now a mum, a podcaster, and also a Peloton tragic. Like me. She opens up in this podcast about her battle with depression, how after swimming she really struggled to find her way. And she talks about how she's coping with this, how she actually endured and went back to the Olympics again after suffering depression and won an Olympic gold medal, as you do. And then how she suffered again as a result, but found a way of being able to cope through both medication, but also bringing technology into her life, positive technology in a brand like Peloton that helps her stay regular, keeps her mentally and physically fit. This is such a cool conversation with someone who's really, really inspiring. She opens up about her mental thoughts as she's swimming the race. She opens up about how she struggles after the fact. And for anyone that is struggling with any thoughts or darkness or depression, Libby and I both ask you to seek help, to reach out to someone, to talk to a helpline. I know I'm so proud of Libby opening up and talking about this. And I too have suffered from elements of really dark periods of my life where I also needed to seek some help and speak to someone about it. And I'm very grateful to have done that. If you feel like that, please do that. I hope you get inspired and I hope you really enjoy listening to an Australian champion and just a genuinely awesome person. Libby Trickett, this for me is a massive honour. Thank you for taking the time to have a conversation with me on my podcast.
You're so welcome. It's so good to be here.
Hey, give us the elevator pitch, the Libby Trickett elevator pitch. Sometimes I have an international audience of like 2 or 3 people, and they'll be like, most people in Australia know you. Know of you.
Yeah.
What's your elevator pitch? Libby Trickett is?
Libby Trickett is, you may remember me from such Olympics as. So I went to 3 Olympic Games as a swimmer. I have won 7 Olympic medals. That feels like a lifetime ago now. And now I spend most of my time wrangling 3 young girls. And also I'm studying a Bachelor of Counselling and also have a podcast. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment.
That's pretty amazing because I had the suspicion, I set you up with that question.
Oh, God.
And I had a suspicion you would mention the swimming and you would quickly pivot to your life and that transition from swimming to your life, because a lot of that is what your podcast is about.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's a funny thing, sport, right? Like you do it for what feels like a really long time in your life, but really it's a blip in terms of like a person's entire life. Like for me, I mean, I swam from pretty much as soon as I could walk, I learnt to swim, and have been swimming ever since. But in terms of that really elite period of time, it's only 10 to 15 years of somebody's life. So, assuming I hope I live to a ripe old age, it's only going to be a small mark in my life. But it's something that, I'm so grateful for and so proud of. And I've been able to kind of, I don't know, use in a way to talk about mental health, which is something that I'm really passionate about. And I think that's where my life is going now. But yeah, it's, there's so much more to me than just that person who was an athlete for a period of time.
But let's not underestimate your achievements as well. We're talking 4 Olympic gold medals,
Yeah.
more Commonwealth Games gold medals in some countries. You were very, very, very successful as a swimmer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny thing. It feels honestly, it feels like a lifetime ago because I am retired 9 years this year. I've retired 9 years ago. And there's sometimes that I'm like, oh, how did I do that? Like how did I train for 35 hours a week for 50
Wow.
weeks a year for, the better part of a decade? How how did I do that? But it's amazing because I don't know, I loved it so much. And it's such an incredible privilege to be able to represent your country at the highest level. And not only that, like I was really, I mean, a lot luck has a lot to do with it because everyone who's going to an Olympic Games is training as much as I was. So it comes down to the race on the day, and that's not to discount all of the hard work that I put into it, but it just, it
People are
feels.
listening going, that ain't luck. That's 35 hours of like per week staring at a black line going up and down a pool, going crazy, just working your ass off.
Yeah.
And I, I most listeners here have not won an Olympic gold medal. I don't think it's almost like you'd be unlucky. Maybe have you ever thought of it in a different frame? Because maybe you wanted to expect disappointment, maybe so it was okay, but you didn't disappoint.
No,
You,
yeah, you can kind of frame it that way, but I don't know. It's I really feel like you have to be a little bit lucky on the day because I know
hmm
how hard it is to win. Like things have
Yep.
to go right, and I've had the experience that in the 100 meters butterfly in Beijing, I ah maybe I was the favorite to win it, maybe I wasn't the favorite. Um, but I ended up putting together the best race that I possibly could, best race of my life. I did a personal best time and I touched the wall first and
Jeez.
won the gold medal and, you know, got to sing the national anthem, which is every athlete's dream, right? That level is to be able to walk away with an individual gold medal. But then I've also had the experience where, in the 100 meters freestyle at the very same Olympics, where I was the world record holder, I was the world champion from the year before, and I walked away with silver. Um, so I know, yeah, there is a little element of luck. It's like you have to work your ass off
Yeah.
to get this opportunity, right? And then you have to kind of leave it up to the universe.
Perform.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you talk me through it? So there's one thing to like you peaked at the exact right time. You
Mm,
showed up at exactly the right time. Like of all the races, there's a lot of people that talk about playing in a grand final, and we played the worst game we've ever played because we just built it up too much in our heads.
mm.
How did you get to the pinnacle and smash it and just do the best you've ever done? How does that
But
happen?
but that's exactly right. That's luck, right? Like you have to be the right age at the right time, and that's why watching the Tokyo Olympics get postponed by a year, like
Yeah, it's
that
hard.
it was so hard, not just for the young athletes who that might have been their first Olympics, but for the athletes, particularly at the end of their career, right, where they're like, another 12 months is maybe too much for their body, for their mind, whatever it might be. So a lot of luck in terms of timing. In Beijing, particularly, I was 23, so kind of at a good age. Although there's an
Young.
argument to be said with particularly female athletes, particularly sprinters, that you actually might do better the longer you swim because of the way that we develop over time. However, at the time, for me, 23, I was physically in the best shape of my life. I was the strongest, the most fit and most. experienced, I guess, at that stage. And I think the luck that I had on my side for the 100 meters butterfly was that I wasn't necessarily the favorite. So my teammate, Jessica Schipper, we had been tussling for a few years by that stage for that 1 and 2 position in the 100 meters butterfly. So I think she won in 2005 Worlds, she won 2006 Com Games, I won the 2007 Worlds. And so we were kind of going back and forth. And so there wasn't as much pressure on me in that particular race because nobody really thought of me as a butterflyer, which I think really played into my hands at that particular meet because I was able to just kind of go in there and really just allow my body to do what I had trained it to do. Whereas fast forward to the freestyle, the 100 meters freestyle, and then also the 50 meters freestyle later in that event, I was the world record holder for both the 50 and 100 meters freestyle leading into the Olympics. I had a less than ideal outcome 4 years prior in Athens, where I hadn't even made the final, despite also being the world record holder leading into that event. So I kind of, and then I kind of, I don't know if you swear on your podcast, but
You can swear.
Okay, cool. I fucked it. In the 100 freestyle semifinal, I completely stuffed up my race. I went too easy. I did actually officially miss the final. And the only way that I actually made the final was because one of the Chinese swimmers actually got disqualified from moving on the blocks. So I was lucky to get, I was lucky to get a spot in the final. And then I know that I didn't refocus in the way, I didn't kind of recalibrate my thinking from that semifinal to the final. Instead of being focused on the fact that I had this opportunity now, I spent way too much time on the fact that I almost didn't have the opportunity, which is ridiculous, right? Because I had the opportunity, but I was so focused that I almost stuffed up completely. So I spent way too much time and energy on that thing that wasn't real. And then, kind of went too hard and missed the gold medal by 0.04 of a second. So it's an interesting time to remember back to, because I can see the process that I went through, and knowing who I am as a person and who most people are, I understand how I went through that process. But it's one of those things that you just go, if you just let it go, just focus on the fact that you were an Olympic gold medalist at that stage. You had every opportunity. You were swimming really fast. You had the capability of winning, but you stuffed up your race, basically. And 0.04 of a second is not very much. And who's to say what part of my race I could have easily done lots better. But what would have been the difference between that and silver?
Because 0.04, whatever it is, like I know Seinfeld does a joke and he's just like, the difference between an Olympic gold medalist and no one is this, that much, like that much. How do you, when you're on the blocks, because you're a sprinter, right? So it's like, I've always wondered this because I've never had a conversation with a sprinter before, apart from myself, and I'm not a very good sprinter, but I would always be standing there on the blocks going like, shit. Do you...
Look, that's not an ideal race preparation. Let's be honest.
Well, I sort of knew I was out of my league whenever I was on the blocks. But okay, so you're on the blocks, right? What's going through your head? Are you talking to yourself? Do you have mental mind games? Are you calm? Are you nervous? Like, what's your body? What's your emotion?
I think lots of people think nerves are a bad thing, and that's just not the case. Nerves are a wonderful thing because it means that you care about what you're doing. So I was able to really reframe that idea in my mind. And anytime I felt, the flutters in your tummy or, racing heart or kind of that breathless feeling or a bit shaky with the hands, that always, or going to the toilet for needing to poo all the time or wee all the time. It was because
That's
you were
great,
nervous,
Libby.
right?
That's really, really. We, we should. So basically, you're on the blocks, and all you can think about is weeing and pooing. Okay, this is great.
Also
Mm.
not ideal if you're doing that. Um, but you get the nervous wheeze and the nervous poos,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that all happens. But I realized that that was my body getting ready to race. Like that was my nervous system firing up to
Yep.
allow my body to perform in the way that I'd trained it. So I was pretty good at managing that. For me, it was always the mental chat that I had to control.
Yep.
And so for me, a lot of the things that I had to kind of manage in my head was when I was getting, or if I was getting negative, this sounds really weird. And I'm sure lots of athletes have kind of different role plays or scenarios that they play out in their mind. But for me, when I was getting negative or worried or nervous, like nervous in a detrimental way, I would be playing the post race interview in my head. And the interviewer was always asking me, "Oh, what did you do wrong?" Or like, why did you swim the race that way? Or what did you do? Or what could you have done better? And so
Mm.
I think it was probably around well, no, in my first year on the team in 2003, I was really sick. I had bronchitis. I had a lot of asthma issues racing over in Barcelona. It was an indoor pool, which was aggravating my breathing. And so at that point, my coach and he encouraged me to develop what he called a power phrase, which started as I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm healthy, therefore I'm fast, which
Ah.
I wasn't healthy. But if you tell yourself enough and you ignore all the other mind chatter, that was enough for me to allow my body to do what it was capable of, whatever that was capable of, despite having bronchitis and having a few challenges in that respect. So basically, from then on, anytime in the lead up to a meet, or particularly when we're at the meet and preparing to warm up, basically as soon as I walked into the pool, it was I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm healthy, therefore I'm fast, and that was just on repeat in my head constantly. And then in 2006, after a few tussles with Jodie Henry, um, an incredible Australian swimmer for your overseas listeners who don't know, triple Olympic gold medalist in Athens. Uh,
Yeah.
and we were just constantly tussling for that one or two position. And in 2006, I don't know, I was getting so frustrated at it was at trials for the Commonwealth Games that I raced her. And I remember thinking, I'm not far enough ahead at this point because she had this incredible back end speed. And I was literally in the race. And I remember thinking, I'm not far enough ahead. And I was just so sick of not being in my lane. And so my power phrase became, I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm healthy, therefore I'm fast. No doubts, no regrets. I'm just here to have fun because swimming is fun. Ultimately, I started swimming because I just loved being in the water. I loved seeing how fast my body could go. Um, and I loved racing. Like that was just
Wow.
the best, to try and touch the wall first. And I couldn't do that if I was focused on what other people were doing in the lane next to me. So yeah, I think for me, it was always about that power phrase. And basically, as soon as I got onto pool deck, it was I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm healthy, therefore I'm fast. No doubts, no regrets. I'm just here to have fun. And that allowed me to do what my body was trained to do.
So when you're in that race, you're in the race and Jodie Henry's in the lane next to you and you're freaking out a little bit and everyone in
Mm.
Australia is screaming at the TV like, come on, Libby, go, go. Like we're all going mental. In your head, you're going, I'm strong, I'm fit, and
When I'm actually in
I'm
the race,
fast.
no, when I'm actually in the race
No.
and I'm racing well, I think almost
Kick, kick,
nothing.
kick, kick, kick,
It's
kick, kick.
it just comes. I'm just feeling the water. I'm just in
Wow,
that
okay.
moment.
Zone.
For all of my worst races, I can remember almost every meter or almost every centimeter of what I was
Wow.
thinking. And that's because I was in my head rather than in my body.
I want to come back to this mental toughness. in a sec, but before we do, I gotta know, you touch the wall and you look around, do you know that you've won?
um, for the 100 fly, I did. In Beijing, I definitely did. There's been a couple of moments. There have been a couple of really cool moments. Like when I broke the world record for the first time in 2004 at the Olympic trials.
Wow.
It was a semi-final, and I was like a couple of body lengths ahead, and that was a really cool moment. I had no idea that I was going to break the world record at that stage, but it felt good because you
So
won
you
by a bit,
touched.
and I broke my personal best time by a second at that stage, and that
Oh
was
man,
yeah, that was really really cool. But most of the time it's like it's being sprinting, it's point oh something of a second,
yeah,
so you never know until you turn around. And yeah, it feels really good. It feels really good when it's been a tight race and you turn around and there's a number one next to your name.
national anthem.
Yeah.
What's the part? What's the part? What got you the most? Was it touching and then going, "Oh my god, I've done it"? Was it seeing family or something on the pool
Ooh.
deck? Was it getting the medal, then the anthem,
It's
or none?
well, no, like I think in the 100 fly, I turned around and I saw number one. And you'd think immediately it would be joy, but immediately for me it was just utter relief, um,
Oh,
which is kind of sad. Like it sounds really sad when you put it like that,
it,
but it was just such a weight that had lifted, because you just go, oh, thank
interesting.
God I was able to execute what I wanted to. And then, then comes the happiness, and then comes, the joy for a moment, but then also comes the, okay, what do I need to do now for my next race? Because I had multiple
Oh,
events, right? So you don't kind of get a moment to celebrate or go out on the town or go and see your family and friends, really, even.
yeah.
I got to see my hubby and my mom and my mother and father-in-law in the stadium after the ceremony, which was really special, and I got to hug my hubby, which was awesome. Yeah, I think everyone kind of dreams about the national anthem, and that is really really special. But to be honest, the most special moments standing on a dais singing the national anthem has been as part of the relays. That's that they're the things,
Ah,
because it's funny, as a swimmer, it's an individual sport. You kind of hope and dream of winning an individual gold medal, which is obviously the pinnacle for our sport. But now that I'm 37 and a washed up old athlete, it's those moments with the other women, the other Australian women that I got to compete with, and sharing those moments on the dais, because they're the ones who know, right? Like they're the ones who know the sacrifice and know the choices you've had to make and know the intensity of the training and the intensity of the racing, and to be able to share that with them, yeah, they're the moments that will live with me forever.
fantastic. Yeah, to share with your friends, with people that have
Mm.
that put that hard work in, and it's amazing. It's a good character for you as well to understand who you are and the type of person you are, and that you'd want to be able to share it with your friends and with your colleagues. You call them colleagues, I guess.
Yeah,
Teammates.
yeah,
It's
teammates.
probably more appropriate. You don't go to work and win gold medals with your colleagues usually, unless it's a weird company.
That would be pretty cool, though.
Uh, but okay, so like, amazing athlete, mentally tough, can perform on the day clearly. I didn't get a chance to read your book yet, but you struggled a little bit in the transition from this life of swimming, which is all for anyone who's never been a swimmer. And I confess, I did a little bit as a kid, lots of training, nowhere near as much as you. It's a hard work. Like I stopped because I was like, I just want to have some friends.
Yeah. I always
uh,
joke that people are either affected by the chlorine mentally, or, or we're just crazy to begin with. I don't know. It's it's a funny sport. I like, even now I've done like a few clinics, like swimming and water polo clinics at the same time.
yeah,
And I always make us do the swimming clinics first because the kids have way more fun doing the water polo. I'm like,
Yeah.
who actually chooses to be a swimmer? We're all
Yeah.
crazy. But
Go do
yeah,
laps for the
yeah,
next
go
like
do laps
couple of
up and
years of your
down.
life, staring at
Yeah,
the black lane without music and stuff.
but I love it, and I still love it. I know it's something that's will be with in me. It's just in me. It's hard to explain it,
Yeah.
but I
It's a
yeah,
lot of thinking time.
yeah, and but it doesn't feel like it feels like work, obviously. Like it's hard work and it's
Mm.
but I just loved it. Like it I know I mentioned sacrifices a little bit earlier, but at really they're just choices that you make. It was a choice that I made to commit and dedicate my life to swimming, and it's choices that you make to miss out on some things that maybe your friends are experiencing,
Mm.
to kind of put off, no, not put off starting life. It's just a different start to life, really. But yeah, when I retired at 27, I had no qualifications. I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do. I assumed being, a person of reasonable profile, that I might get some work in the media somewhere.
Mm.
But I didn't know how to apply what I had learned in swimming into life after. And I didn't know how to ask questions to get the help that I needed to become good at something outside of swimming. So you don't just wander into, a TV studio and be able to put a television package together. That's not the reality of the world you live in. And unfortunately, I had a few opportunities along those lines, and I didn't really have I couldn't articulate the help that I needed. And also, I wasn't really given much help to
Mm-hmm.
navigate it. And I felt so, not to use um, a too much of a cliche, but I really felt like a fish out of water. Like, just had no idea what I was doing, where I was going. I had no idea what I was passionate about. And you kind of go from being the best in the world at what you did at the age of 23 to being a shit kicker 27-year-old who's like trying her hardest to learn
Shit kicker.
something.
Come
Yeah.
on. Yeah, like you've got an Order of Australia and a lot of gold medals. Let's
uh,
be a little kind to yourself.
I know, but it
Let's.
felt like I was a shit kicker because I was coming
Yeah.
in
Okay.
at not the expert. Like, I was an
Yep.
expert in my field, and then I was coming into something that I had literally no idea about. So um yeah, so I retired. Well, I actually initially retired in 2009. I was out of the sport for about 10 months, and I realized that I wasn't quite ready for life after sport. So made a comeback, went to London, the 2012 Olympics. And then it's funny how the world works, but I actually had every intention of going on to Rio. I wanted to keep pushing, do another 4 years, but not long after the London Olympics, I actually had a full scapholunate tear in my wrist, which required a full wrist reconstruction, which who knew
Ooh.
a wrist could need a reconstruction, but it did. And that took me another 10 months to rehab. And I just realized after almost 2 years out of the sport at the age of 27, it was going to be a pretty tough ask to come back to the level that I wanted to come back to. But
Mm-hmm.
also, there was a couple of swimmers by the name of Kate and Bronte Campbell who were kind of doing pretty
Mm.
well at the time. So
Mm.
that made it a little bit more challenging as well. So, yeah, it was kind of, I feel like it was a blessing in disguise. I feel like I don't know that I would have been capable of making the decision to retire again had I not been injured.
So, can I? Because for some people listening, they've probably also have done something. They've given up on something. Then they've gone, "I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to go back
Mm,
to it." The question I'm going to ask is, so you gave up on swimming, and
mm,
then you went, "Nah, I'm going back."
yeah.
Did you enjoy it when you went back? Because you were still successful, right? Did you? I
Well,
mean,
yeah, I wasn't as successful as I would have liked to have been. I did pretty well considering where I had come from in a
Mm.
relatively short period of time. A question that I get asked a lot is, do you wish you hadn't have
Yeah.
retired? Um, and it's a funny thing, like, in some ways, I do regret the actual decision to stop swimming completely. Like, I think had I, have the brain that I have now back then, I would have probably just taken an extended period of time out and then worked out what I wanted to do from there. But, as it was, I'm very much an all or nothing person. And so for me, I
Mhm.
didn't want to swim. So I didn't. I just retired. And that seemed to make sense in my head. I
Yeah.
felt like I was ready to move on. I felt like I was ready to see what the world had in store for me. But the reality is really different. And I was living in Sydney with not a lot of my support network there. I put on about 10 kilos because I went from training 35 hours a week to
Yep.
not training anything at all because I
Yep.
was rebelling against the idea of exercise.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so there was a few things that were playing into it, and I definitely fell into a depression during that period of time. And for me, all I could see to get myself out of that depression was to have the structure of swimming, the routine, the tangible black and white goal that I was working towards, um, something that I was doing every single day.
Mm.
And that really helped me, and I was able to make a third Olympics, which, is something that I'm incredibly proud of. And I would have loved to have gone to a fourth had it not been for my injury. But also, I think it was a blessing because I think I was ready. I just didn't know that I was. And life gives you the opportunities and the challenges that you kind of need to become the person that I've definitely become the person that I am today because of all of those experiences.
So that's brave. You hit the bottom. Like you literally hit the bottom, and then you you suffered from depression. You said, and
Mm.
then went to the Olympics. I didn't know that was in between your Olympic campaigns. I just assumed maybe it was after. And sorry for not
Oh no,
knowing, but
no, no, no!
how
I
do
had it
you
after as well.
uh, well, that's so much better. Um,
Both times, it's fine.
how do you so for people maybe listening and they're going through something and they want to be able to cope, it's like
Mm.
what you did is you went, it sounds like you went back to what you knew what
Yeah.
to do, whereas a happy place that had you in a routine that you knew you could achieve. You became an Olympian again. Just
Mm.
one of those things. It's pretty easy, as we all do. And then suffered another bout of depression by the
Mm.
sounds of it. How do you know you're suffering from depression? How do you get to the point where you're like, I think I'm in trouble and I need to do something about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and it really looks different on different people. So, and at different times of
Mm-hmm.
people's lives. So, the depression that I had during my retirement, my first retirement, um, I had no motivation to do anything at all. It was a struggle to get out of bed. I was retreating from all sort of social interactions. I really wasn't connecting with any friends or family. I didn't find joy in anything that I was doing. Um, Everything just felt really hard, almost like you're moving through like mud or honey or
Mm-hmm.
molasses. Like everything just feels heavy and hard. And
Mm.
I probably didn't have the language around what I was feeling at the time or the ability to ask for the help that I needed at that time either. So that's why I guess I headed back towards swimming because yeah, like you said, it was like a comfort zone. It's what I knew. I knew what was required of me. I didn't have the brain capacity to kind of work life out on the outside of sport. It was too complicated for me at that time because I was going through too much in my head. And then so that was that experience. And then after swimming, I went through a down period initially after first retiring, but it wasn't depression. It was just that transition period where you're like, oh God, what am I going to do with my life? But then I experienced postnatal depression after the birth of my first daughter. And for me, those symptoms, there were similarities in some instances. There's that kind of deep feeling of not being enough on some level, being really shitty at whatever it is that you're doing and getting no payoff and not finding any joy in anything. But the main difference for me was anger. I had a lot of anger and just an inability to manage my emotions. And that was really scary. That kind of that for me got to a moment where I was thinking really terrible things about my daughter. And that was the moment where I went, okay, I need to get help because this isn't normal. And I needed to find my way out of that dark place.
Do you mind me asking, is there help in the form of medication or counseling or both? And obviously, did it help?
Yeah. I mean, again, such a good question, because I think we need to start normalizing these conversations and what that looks like on different people, because then others can actually try different things and see what works for them. So for me at the time, the initial thing was reaching out to my GP, and he made a few suggestions around getting some space. So I put my daughter into daycare one day a week. We had a sleep consultant come and help with her sleeping, because a lot of it was stemming from pretty chronic sleep deprivation at the time. And then also starting to exercise more regularly again, because for me, exercise is 100% the foundation of my mental health kind of checklist. And then at the start of the pandemic, when I had a very newborn baby, or not, she was about 6 months old. Well, actually, no, she would have been about 4 months old when we first went into lockdown in Brisbane. We were staring down the barrel of an undetermined amount of time at home. I had no access to my normal coping mechanisms like exercise, friends and things like that, the routines that I created to help with the rhythm of our week and our days and our months.
Daycare as well.
Daycare, all the girls were at home full time. Yeah. There was no kindy.
Space is gone.
Yeah, everything was really, it felt compressed. And so at that time I decided to go on to medication. Even though I probably didn't feel depressed at that time, I just knew that I was going to need something to help me manage through that time. And I'm happy to say that I'm still on medication now. And I actually think it's been one of the best things for me, because I think sometimes people are just not wired correctly, in inverted commas. And sometimes we do need some assistance. Whether it be through medication, whether it's through exercise. But for me, my foundations are exercise, medication, good sleep. I used to see a therapist really regularly. I see them every now and then as I need it. Just making sure that
Amazing.
but you have to do it every day, right? Like you have to do something every day to make sure you're taking care of yourself. And that for me was a big recognition during that period of time, particularly through postnatal depression.
Are you now? So thank you for sharing that, and for everyone who's listening and heard that as well. Very powerful message, and you're right. Normalize it. Like we're not all wired exactly the same. I've been through bouts of pretty deep and dark, nervous breakdowns and all sorts of stuff, and it was fitness that got me through. More than anything. Are you going to explain to everyone how we met, Libby, or should we just
We met on a Facebook forum.
It was Instagram. Let's
Instagram.
make it a little.
God.
Yeah,
I'm
come
aging
on.
myself.
Gosh, I have a young audience. They won't understand.
They'll be like,
not
Facebook?
Really.
What is Facebook?
But your context of fitness, right, is we had something in common, which is,
Peloton.
I believe, with Peloton, right? So I'll tell everyone, okay? I'll embarrass you for a second. Okay, so I love Peloton.
Are you embarrassing
I,
me or you?
yeah, I know. As soon as I said it, I realized it. The words came out of my mouth, and I went, "Wait a second.
You're like,
I
I
think I'm
love
embarrassing
Peloton.
myself." So everyone that knows, hi, my name is Dave. I'm addicted to Peloton. Have been for a couple of years now. I'm recovering from
We're not
previous
recovering. We're in
addictions.
it. Come on.
We're in it. We're in a cult. It's lovely. So I agree. Every day, right? Every day is the thing. And so anyway, I follow things and I read forums and I just can't get enough of the damn thing. And there's a Libby Trickett comment on the Peloton post, and it says, "When is the treadmill coming to Australia?" And I was like flicking through at night, double screening, dual screening, or whatever, because it's just TV's rubbish. And
Obviously.
and I'm obsessed by Peloton. Scrolling through, I go, Libby Trickett.
Like, hang on a second.
The Libby Trickett? This can't be Libby Trickett. Oh my God, it's Libby Trickett. And then I messaged you and was like, why are you asking about a treadmill? Are you a tragic at Peloton like me? And here we are.
I am. Hi.
And then I follow you on Instagram, and you're a Peloton every day, nearly.
Yep.
You do yoga, and this was the whole premise of like my podcast supposed to be about technology and how it helps you cope with life. And technology is all about like a lot of the people I talk to, technology is bad for you. But this is technology that's not bad for you at all. It's actually made me the fittest and happiest I've ever been.
Yes, exactly. And I would like to say I'm right there with you. I am addicted to Peloton. It is, I don't know. It's a funny thing because my sister kind of encouraged me to get one, and it's hilarious because I now use it more than she does. But
all or nothing, Libby Trickett.
All
or nothing.
Don't
get me one. I'll smash you on the leaderboard.
Exactly. And it's just, I think, I mean, there's so much that I love about it because, back in the day, a million years ago when I was going to Fitness First, I'd do the spin session and then I'd go and do a body pump session and body attack and all those sorts of things. So it's like having those classes in literally my home. And it kind of took me a while, not a huge amount of time, but it took me a little while to kind of use it in the way that I wanted to use it, I guess. And finding the time with 3 young children can be a little bit challenging at the best of times. But yeah, now I love the fact that you can do a boot camp or you can do cycle, or eventually I hope I get my hands on a treadmill like you are so fortunate to have, because I think I'd really, really enjoy that because I hate running. Well, I don't hate running. I don't love running, but I'd love to be able to do a class like that because I think that would be a nice distraction for me. I know you love Bex.
I do love Bex. Don't tell everyone my secrets.
Hey, I'm Cody. I'm a boot crew, baby.
I dreamt about Bex the other night. It was a little awkward. I had to wake up and go, explain it to my wife and go, I think the virtual instructor's finally crept into my psyche properly now.
That's so funny.
Actually, Jess Sims was in my dream the other night. What? She was sitting at some fashion parade or something. I don't know what I was doing at a fashion parade, but anyway, whatever. I was waving at her like, hi, Jess. Like,
but we all have our
kid.
favourites, right? Like Cody is right up there for me, but I love Emma Lovewell as well. And Tunde, they're just, they're all magic, right? But you can just, and there's an Aussie doing yoga, Kira Michelle, like she's awesome as well. Like there's so much that you can get out of it. And the fact, I think, because for a really long time, coming from swimming and that kind of elite mentality, it was like if I didn't do 2 hours of exercise, it wasn't worth doing, that all or nothing mentality, right? Whereas what I love about the Peloton and the way that I think about exercise now is it doesn't have to be 2 hours. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes. It can be 10 minutes. It can be 5 minutes. It can just be a stretch that you do. They have meditation. There's like so many things that can enrich your lives in different ways. And you can do a 10-minute yoga, or you could do, a 20-minute boot camp, or you could do, a 45-minute cycle. There's so many different options, and you can mix it all together, which makes it great for me because I get bored otherwise. And I think that's what exercise should be. It's about trying different things and challenging your body in different ways. and learning from different people, because they're actually all really inspiring people as
They are
well.
inspiring, aren't they? It's not just about the music and sweating. It's
No.
like you come away with like positive affirmations and you
Yeah.
start quoting things that you like. I think your quote, I was telling my daughter, I can, I will, I do. It was one of Christine McGee or one of the cyclists. She had a particular quote. I've got a quote on the wall, you know, there's just so many positive affirmations that come out of, like, I literally just came from a class before I did the podcast. That's why I
Yeah.
still look a little red. I did a run. Sorry to mention the treadmill again with Bex.
I
Once
really
again,
want
if
a
you,
treadmill. Come
yeah,
on,
yeah,
Dad.
I think, what if we send this to them and
Can we
say,
send
hey,
this to them,
Peloton,
surely?
Australia, one of
You
the
have at
greatest
least one person
swimmers
wanting to buy one.
wants a treadmill. I mean, I don't think Peloton's going to come out with a pool anytime soon.
Although they
Or
should. They could.
could you do a swimming class of some
Yeah.
sort with like goggles and headphones and like, yeah? Do they have technology for that stuff
Yeah,
now?
we've got stuff like that. That happens. It's technology, right? It's constantly evolving.
In the old days, I don't know to go off, you would have to swim without any music or anything. Do people now swim with music and stuff? Or are
Oh,
you still just lost in your own head again, like 35 hours, just
people
me?
like general population, the plebs just kicking up and down the pool. I think a lot of them wear headphones or whatever the things are. But I just
Oh,
kick it old school and don't
oh.
have that. I just am with my thoughts.
Because I would seriously turn up with the goggles with like the laser things that are like
Yes,
TV and
that
wires
does
in my
look
head.
cool. Like they don't have TVs. That would be cool. Maybe that could
You
be
could,
your thing. You can trademark that. But like those are the ones that have like the lap counters and the meters and
yeah,
all that
you
sort of
could do a
stuff.
Peloton style swimming instruction class.
Yeah. Yes. Let's
Why
write this
not?
down. Let's
Positive
workshop it some more.
affirmations as they're going through it.
We
Now
can,
for
we will,
everyone,
we must.
yeah, and do, and everyone will just go, no, that's this ridiculous idea. But your advice to people who are struggling with training and like, because everyone starts this stuff and they don't do it, and you're someone that just clearly, like, if you say you're going to do it, you don't seem
Not
to
all
not.
the time. No,
Oh,
not all the time.
don't.
And
You've
and
just
you know,
ruined my story. You're meant to say yes and then just keep going.
no, because then
Oh
that's
god.
not accessible, right? Like
Okay.
people need to know that it's not easy every day. Like, I know how good exercise is for me. I know how good it is for my
Yeah.
physical health. I know how vitally important it is for my mental health. But it's a commitment every day that I make to prioritize that time. And, instead of like, because, I get asked sometimes whether I, do things early in the morning or I do things late at night, because obviously with kids and work and all of those sorts of things, it can get a bit challenging. And sometimes it works that I am getting up at 4 a.m. And at the moment it works that I put the girls to bed and I go and do my exercise. And it's just, it's not sacrifices, it's the choices we make. So instead of
Yep.
going and sitting on the couch and watching Netflix, I go and do some yoga, or I go and do, a spin class, because that's the choice that I'm making. And, we all have enough time. Like, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
it feels like, because I don't want to ever feel like I'm judging anybody, and I don't ever want anyone to feel judged. But the reality is that we all do have time. We have to find it sometimes. And
Prioritize
sometimes
it.
and sometimes it means that you're getting up at 4 a.m. and going to bed at 9 o'clock, because that's what your priority is. And that's when you can find that time. Or maybe instead of spending half an hour watching Ted Lasso, which I'm also re-binging at the moment, a great show.
Yeah.
But, instead of doing that, I go and spend half an hour doing exercise, because I know that that's what is going to benefit me. But yeah, sometimes it's hard. Like the other night, I just lay on the mat for like half an hour arguing with myself, going, I don't actually have to do this. Like, I can just go to bed, or I could just go watch Ted Lasso.
But you did it, didn't you?
But then I ended up doing it. And, I promised myself that I only had to do 5 minutes. And that's that really uncomfortable point, right? And I read an amazing book, Atomic Habits by James Clear.
I've read that.
And he just talks about showing up, right?
Yep.
That first 5 minutes is super uncomfortable, because
Yep.
you just like, I just desperately don't want to do it, but you just turn up, and you can not do it. Like, you're an adult, you get to make your own choices, but usually, most of the time, and not all the time, but most of the time, when you show up, you actually go in and do something, whatever that looks like for you on that day.
Yeah, and once you consistently do it and you form a habit, you know you can do it, and you know the
Exactly.
enjoyment of doing it. So you're like, well, I'm here. I'm in the Peloton instructors, always do it. Hardest part of the workout is that you're here.
Yeah,
Check, done. Let's get
done.
going.
Let's go.
And I've never. Have you ever regretted
Not
being
ever.
there when they start the music and
And
like
not all
I
of
got
them, not all of them feel good. Doesn't mean you're going to feel great on each session, but you're showing up for yourself every day, and that feels good. And I think that's the main thing that I take away from my exercise now.
I turned up to an Adrian Williams boot camp last week. Didn't feel like doing it, and he drops Eminem. You dun 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 dun
Yes.
dun dun. I'm bouncing around on the treadmill like I'm going out to a title fight, and I'm
How
just in
good.
the gym on my own, just like you better lose yourself in the moment. You own it,
Yes.
and I'm just like, yeah, man. Like, forget work, forget stress, forget the
Yes.
kids. I'm dancing to Eminem before I'm doing a boot camp. Like, this,
100%.
that's like weirdo adult middle-aged fun.
Yeah, but why can't we do that? Like,
You
why
wouldn't do it
can't
in
we?
a gym.
Well, look, maybe not. But why can't we? Like, that's partly what I love about yoga, to be honest, because you're kind of getting to play and
Yeah.
see what you can do, and having a moment where you're just like, oh, cool, let's see if my body can do this anymore, or let's see if my
Uh,
body can do that.
like standing on your head, which you've been
Yeah.
posting on Instagram frequently.
Yeah.
You made me
Handstands.
do that.
Did I? It's so good.
Yeah, I tried it a couple of times. It's hard to get down from there.
Yeah, it is, but it's fun, and it's cool to see what your body can do. And, I hope I never lose that for as long as I can.
Yeah. Nice. And so, a couple of tips for everyone: get a Peloton. Look out for
We're
the
not sponsored, by
leaderboard.
the way. We bought all
No, we're
of
not. We
these.
just love it. Have you got a leaderboard name? Should people follow
Yeah.
you? I don't even know what
Libby
following
T,
does. But
Libby T 44, something random like that.
Libby T 44. I'm going to find you and I'm going to do a ride with you. I'm going to see if I can keep
Yeah,
up.
let's do it.
That'd be
It
fun. We'll
has
do a
to be a
community
Cody
ride.
ride, though. Is that okay?
Okay. Cody's
Thank you.
quite funny. I'll give you that.
He's great.
You also mentioned Atomic Habits.
Yes.
Fantastic book, and I know
Highly recommend.
you also mentioned you run an amazing podcast,
Thank you.
I hate interviewing podcast hosts, especially good ones, because I like listen to it for the first time and I go, oh, if it's crap, it'll be okay because it doesn't matter what my questions are like. And your podcast style and the people you interview is just awesome.
Thank you.
All that glitters.
Yes,
is what it's
all
called.
that glitters. Yeah, it's yeah, I love it. It's kind of like a weird passion project thing. And I don't know, I just love it because it's talking about mental health, right? It's just through the lens of transition from life into life after sport. But really, it's just anyone transitioning, making a major life transition, whether it's into parenthood or a career transition or transition into marriage. Think
Or
like
out of it.
or out of marriage. It totally depends. There's these big life transitions where your identity is challenged and how you view yourself is challenged. And so, yeah, I love it. And thankfully, I've had one person say no so far, but otherwise I just get ghosted, which is fine because that's what I do most of the time anyway.
Oh, so it's an honor for you to have said yes to me then.
100%.
Wow. I feel...
Do you feel honored?
I do. I feel oddly... is it because I'm a Peloton tragic?
Yeah, it is. You got
okay.
me.
I did promise I'd try and get you a treadmill somehow.
I won't hold you to that.
I'll get a mini one. So I found them in America. It's hard to get them here though. But
Yeah.
we'll
It has to
work
come
on
here,
it.
Surely, eventually. I just
They
have to be
reckon it's the
patient.
largest market. It's larger than the bikes.
It's
So
gotta
if-
be.
they'll bring them out. They'll
Yeah.
be here soon. Surely. I can't wait to
Surely.
run with people.
I know, so good.
Feel lonely down here running, and then they might have some more running classes. Hey, I've got to ask you this question:
Yes.
is there such and be honest, okay? Because the commentators say this stuff about swimming: fast pull and a slow pull. Like, don't bullshit us, okay?
Yes. So there's ideal swimming conditions. There's ideal pool conditions. So racing, like top
It's
level.
got to have water in it.
Well, ideally, that would be great. But so like any world championship pool, any Olympic pool has to be built to certain specifications. So it has to usually be 2 meters deep the entire way. It has to use certain type of lane ropes. The gutter system has to be in a certain way. So there's been a few times in a few different pools where, the pools that get built like just for purpose. So particularly in 2007 at the World Champs there, it was actually built on Rod Laver tennis court in Melbourne. And there was issues with some of the guttering systems. So if you were on the outer lanes, you actually got hit by waves a lot more than you would normally. So yeah, there are certain specifications. It has to be 27 degrees, which is why I'm an absolute wuss when a pool is colder than that.
Me too. I would set it like 30, 33 at the moment. Oh. We're in Melbourne though, right?
Well,
you Queenslanders are a bit tougher
You're
than
allowed
us.
to then.
Yeah. 27. That's pretty warm.
27 is the perfect race temperature.
Wouldn't the 1,500-meter swimmers be going like, come on, like 23 would be better for me? It's a long time down here in the water.
Screw the distance swimmer. Us sprinters need it warm, man.
Does anyone... nah, this is a topic that will go on forever.
What's that?
Sprinters is where it's at, right?
Oh, 100%. Well, I actually interviewed Grant Hackett not that long ago, and I was like,
did you say that to him?
Yeah, I was like, why choose
you just
the
a distance swimmer, you dick.
He's like, yeah, he's like, mate, I would choose the 100 if I could, but I wasn't fast enough. I'm like, oh, fair enough.
What a legend.
Yeah, he's such a dude.
It's been awesome. I know your time is so valuable, and you did say you had to wrap and get on with things. So I just wanted to say thank you for opening up. Also giving your time to talk to me and share a couple of your passions. Cody, your love for Cody.
My love for Cody.
Yeah. And your Peloton and doing handstands and Instagram and your books and all the stuff that you do. You're a wonderful person. You can just get that sense. Hopefully one day I can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
You on a treadmill or something. Oh, yeah. I try and end on a nice thing. I'm a genuinely
You're a
half decent person.
And this is crap.
I'm a shit person, but for 1 hour I can actually fake it and be nice. It's amazing actually how, habitually you can just hold it together for 1 hour, and then after this I'm just going to go and threaten my kids and family or something. Yeah, exactly. And jump in my ridiculously heated pool.
Exactly right. No, thank you so much. That's been an absolute pleasure. I loved it. All right, take care. Bye.
Cheers, dude.